Hi everyone, we'll start in 5 minutes.
Hello, everyone. Venerable has arrived. Please, we are going to start at 5:10. Please wait. Thank you so much. So we're going to start soon. And if you can, please join us in group prostrations. We've now cultivated the habit of starting and ending teachings with that. So we do that. And then
Ready, ready?
yeah, just ready. Okay. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Choe Khor Sum Ling and to this special teaching on the Vajra Sutra by our teacher. And some of you are new to the center, so welcome. And for people online as well, yeah, welcome to our online class. Please give me a minute. Clearly, I'm a bit winded. Venerable Namjong has been coming to our center for a long time. He's one of our early teachers at the center, and he's from Hawaii and is a practitioner of Tibetan Buddhism and student of His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama and Gyabje Lama Zopa Rinpoche. Venerable has studied Zen and Theravada schools of Buddhism, and he's completed 17 years in the Geshe Studies program at the Seraje Monastic University and holds a BA in philosophy from Princeton. He is now focusing on meditation and is a registered teacher with the FPMT. And we are so happy to have Venerable here. Anytime Venerable says that he is passing by Bangalore or is in India, we invite him because it's very, very precious to learn from him. Thank you so much for stopping by and teaching us over 4 sessions, Venerable. And already I'm extending an invitation for further teachings from you anytime you wish to come back and teach us. Thank you so much.
Okay. Well, we haven't even started this series of teaching, so maybe that invitation will be premature. I'm joking. So is this okay?
Yeah,
Maybe- Oh, I see. Yeah. Okay. How's that? Can you hear me? People on the Zoom, you can hear me? Wow. All right.
Yes,
So thank you, Dipti, for the nice welcome. Choe Khor Sum Ling holds a very dear place in my heart because this is where I started to teach Dharma so many years ago. And wow, I think 15 years ago. Wow, getting old, right? But anyway, uh, that has been a source of tremendous um, fulfillment for me. JC, hi. Um, and so, yeah, I hold this place very dearly. And so I welcome all of you. I do see some familiar faces, both on the Zoom as well as in person, including on the Zoom, we have the former director, Shanti, who is now up in Dharma, doing good things at Tushita Meditation Center. So thank you. And now JC has entered. Otherwise, it was all female Dakini practitioners here in the center. So it's good that we have a mixed crowd. So welcome everyone. Thank you for coming. I'm very honored, especially to have been asked to give this teaching on the Vajra cover, the Vajra Chetika, one of the Paramita Sutras. But before we get into all that, I heard that part of the capabilities building within the center is that we now have an illustrious chant leader who can lead us in some of the preliminary prayers. Yes? Okay. So, I'm sorry. I know I just met you for the first time. Pratibha. Pratibha. Okay. So Pratibha will lead us in the prayers. So, as I like to say, then these prayers, it's not just to mouth the words or to chant in Tibetan, but try to reflect on the meaning of the words as you do it, and is to generate proper motivation for receiving these teachings. So with that.
Page number 34 in the Golden Prayer Book. Page number 34. Taking refuge and generating the Buddha.
Yes, please.
Chodan Suki Chodam La Janshu Bardu Dagi Kyapsuchi Dagi Junsogi Pe Sonamgi Roda Penche Sange Trupa Shu Sange Chodan Suki Chodam La Janshu Bardu Dagi Kyapsuchi Dagi Junsogi Pe Sonamgi Roda Penche Sange Trupa Shu Sange Suda Suki Chona Blau Janchu Bardu Dagni Kapsuchi Dagi Jinsuki Pe Sonaki Dola Penche Sange Tupa. I go for refuge and the I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the practice of giving and other perfections, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. May all sentient beings have happiness in the causes of happiness. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all sentient beings be inseparable from the happiness that is free from suffering. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from attachment for friends and hatred for enemies. May all sentient beings have happiness in the causes of happiness. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all sentient beings be inseparable from the happiness that is free from suffering. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from attachment for friends and hatred for enemies. May all sentient beings have happiness in the causes of happiness. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all sentient beings be inseparable from the happiness that is free from suffering. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from attachment for friends and hatred for enemies. Reverently I prostrate with my body, speech, and mind. I present clouds of every type of offering, actual and imagined. I declare all my negative actions accumulated since beginning this time, and rejoice in the merit of all holy and ordinary beings. Please remain until the end of cyclic existence and turn the wheel of Dharma for living beings. I dedicate my own merits and those of all others to the great enlightenment. Short mandala offering. This ground, alighted with perfume, strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, fruit continents, the sun and the moon. I imagine this as a Buddha field and offering it. May all living beings enjoy this pure land. Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Continuing on page 73. Praise to Shakyamuni Buddha, page 73. To the founder, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the full destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, to you, the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings and go for refuge. To the founder, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the full destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, to you, the complete, fully awakened one, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. To the founder, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the full destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, to you, the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. When, O supreme amongst humans, you were born on this earth, who based our seven stripes and said, I'm supreme in this world. To you who were wise and I prostrate, with pure bodies formed supremely pure, wisdom ocean like a golden mountain, fame that blazes in the three worlds, winner of the best, Lord, to you I prostrate. With a supreme sign, face like spotless moon, colored like gold, to you I prostrate. Thus free like you, the three worlds are not, incomparably white one, to you I prostrate. The Savior having great compassion, the Founder having all understanding, the field of merit with qualities like a vast ocean, to you, the one gone to thusness, I prostrate. The purity that frees one from attachment, the virtue that frees one from the lower realms, the one path, the sublime pure reality, the Dharma that pacifies, I prostrate. Those who are liberated and who also show the path to liberation, the holy field qualified with realizations, who are devoted to the moral precepts, to you, the sublime community in death in virtue, I prostrate. Homage to the Supreme Buddha, homage to the Dharma refuge, homage to the great Sangha, to all three ever devout homage, to all worthy of respect, bowing in bodies as many as all realms, atoms, and all aspects, with supreme faith I pay homage. Do not commit any non-virtuous actions, perform only perfect virtuous actions, subdue your mind thoroughly. This is the teaching of the Buddha. A star, a visual apparition, a flame of a lamp, an illusion, a drop of dew or a bubble, a dream, a flash of lightning, a cloud, see conditioned things as such. Through these merits may sentient beings attain the rank of all seeing, subdue the foe of false, and be delivered from samsara's ocean, perturbed by the waves of aging, sickness, and death. The heart of the perfection of wisdom sutra. I prostrate to the Arya triple gem. Thus did I hear at one time. The Bhagavan was dwelling on massive virtuous mountain in Rajgriha together with a great community of monks and a great community of bodhisattvas. At that time, the Bhagavan was absorbed in the concentration on the categories of phenomena called profound perception. Also, at that time, the Bodhisattva Mahasasva Arya Avalokiteshvara looked upon the very practice of the profound perfection of wisdom and beheld those five aggregates also as empty of inherent nature. Then, to the Vajra Buddha, the Venerable Shariputra said this to the Bodhisattva Mahasasva Arya Avalokiteshvara. How should any son of the lineage claim who wishes to practice the activity of the profound perfection of wisdom? He said that, and the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara said this to the Venerable Shariputra. Shariputra, any son of the lineage or daughter of the lineage who wishes to practice the activity of the profound perfection of wisdom should look upon it like this, correctly and repeatedly beholding those five aggregates also as empty of inherent nature. Form is empty, emptiness is form, emptiness is not other than form, form is also not other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, discrimination, compositional factors, and consciousness are empty. Shariputra, likewise, all phenomena are emptiness, without characteristic, unproduced, unceased, stainless, not without stain, not efficient, not fulfilled. Shariputra, therefore, in emptiness there is no form, no feeling, no discrimination, no compositional factors, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no visual form, no sound, no odor, no taste, no object of touch, and no phenomena. There is no I element, and so on up to and including no mind element, and no mental consciousness element. There is no ignorance, no extinction of ignorance, and so on up to and including no aging and death, and no extinction of aging and death. Similarly, there is no suffering, origination, cessation, and path. There is no exalted wisdom, no attainment, and also no non-attainment. Shariputra, therefore, because there is no attainment, bodhisattvas rely on and dwell in the perfection of wisdom, the mind without obscuration and without fear. Having completely passed beyond error, they reach the end point of nirvana. All the Buddhas who dwell in the three times also manifestly, completely awaken to unsurpassable, perfect, complete enlightenment in reliance on the perfection of wisdom. Therefore, the mantra of the perfection of wisdom, the mantra of great knowledge, the unsurpassed mantra, the mantra equal to unequal, the mantra
Should not clearly pacifies all suffering, should be known as truth, since
since it is not false. The mantra of the perfection of wisdom is declared. Nayata Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasamagate Isho. Shariputra, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva should train in the profound perfection of wisdom like that. Then the Bhagavan arose from that concentration and commended the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara, saying, well said, son of the lineage. It is like that. It is like that. One should practice the profound perfection of wisdom just as you have indicated. Even the Tathagatas rejoiced. The Bhagavan having thus spoken, the Venerable Sharadvati Putra, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara, and those surrounding in their entirety, along with the worlds of gods, humans, asuras, and the Atharvas were overjoyed and high praise that spoken by the page 81, clear to the line, page 13. I prostrate to the gathering of the kings in the three chakras who alive in the holy yoga of using space. By your powers of clear minds and magical animation, look after practitioners like a mother and her child. Akasamara, Shukara, Samara. Sayita Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasamagate. So on. By the teachings of the three supreme jewels possessing the power of truth, may inner and outer hindrances be transformed. May they be dispelled, may they be pacified. Chintan Kuru Soha. May all negative forces opposed to Dharma be completely pacified. May the host of 80,000 obstacles be pacified. May we be separated from problems and harmful conditions to Dharma. May all enjoyments be in accord with the Dharma. And may there be auspiciousness and perfect happiness here right now.
All right. Thank you very much. So on this occasion, over the next 4 sessions, we're going to be going over this profound text, the Vajra Sutra, the Vajra Choe Khor. And well, this is such a wonderful text. It's one of the most famous and renowned and cherished of all the sutras. But before we get into that, Lama Tsongkhapa, he mentioned that it's not enough that the teaching be a Mahayana teaching, but our motivation has to be a Mahayana motivation. So always in the Tibetan tradition, at the beginning of the teaching, a lot of attention is given to adjusting our motivation. So I always like to start in a brief way, and then I like to expand, and then we can start with the teaching, right? So since there's many new people here, and even if you've seen me before, you probably haven't seen me in a while. So I'm going to give a kind of general introduction to Dharma to set the context of what the purpose of Dharma is, the various Dharma teachings that the Buddha taught, and then place this Vajra Sutra within the larger context, and then we'll also place it in the context of maybe some of the other teachings you've received, right? Okay. So when I introduce Dharma, I always like to a little bit plagiarize from Swami Siddhartha, right? I mean, if you're going to plagiarize from someone, then you might as well be as famous, right? So in most of the preliminary teachings he gives, and even in the more advanced teachings he gives to like the learned geshes and monks in the great monastic universities, his holiness always starts off. So although it's a teaching on Buddhism, the fundamental starting point of Buddhism isn't the Buddha, but it's rather that we look at our own lives, we look at our own condition, right? So there's a Zen saying that when we study Buddhism, we actually are studying ourselves. And it also goes on to say, and then when we study ourselves, we then forget about ourselves. Means we then forget about the I as being the most important, most cherished one, and forgetting all the other sentient beings, right? So first, by understanding our own condition, then when we understand our own suffering, we can then apply that same realization and think about the suffering of others. And then our suffering, being that it's just one person, actually pales in comparison to the countless other beings throughout the world who are suffering. In any case, His Holiness always starts with well, we can take it as a hypothesis, right? And in general, one thing I think that is very unique about the Buddhist tradition, and especially as it's taught and practiced in the Tibetan Buddhist tradition, is that the words aren't just to be, or even the teachings, even if it's coming from the Buddha, isn't just to be sort of blindly accepted. One of the most famous quotations His Holiness also cites is from the Sutra. Just as a goldsmith will only acquire gold after cutting it, rubbing it, and scorching it, So you too, monks and scholars, should only adopt my words after thorough investigation and not out of mere respect for me. You see? So the analogy here, right? Although there might be something, it's a shiny kind of stone or rock, right? We don't just, oh, okay, here's my hard-earned money, I want that, right? But if you were to, take it to someone, they would want to analyze, is this real gold or not, right? And so the cutting, rubbing, and scorching are three ways in which you would test whether something is gold, right? If it is just, gold paint on a rock, if you scorch it, maybe it'll light on fire, right? Or if you rub it, maybe then the cloth will get some gold paint on it, right? And if you cut it, right, a real gold, like you cut a ring or something, you'll see, how it bends and all this, right? So similarly, we are sort of advised by the Buddha himself that the real essence is to analyze these teachings and see if they are if they hold true in our experience. Yeah, right. Now, we should also say some people then misunderstand this quotation and then they say, "Oh, the Buddha says don't believe me." Well, no, it's after cutting, rubbing, and scorching, then you acquire the gold. Similarly, after through our analysis, and when we come to see that these teachings hold true, then we can adopt them, right? But before that, we should take things on with a healthy bit of skepticism, hold it as a hypothesis, right? Don't just dismiss it out of hand, right? Um, so yeah, here's the first hypothesis. Okay. You check if this is true in your own life. All beings want to have happiness, and no one wants to suffer. Yeah? How's that sound? Okay. So I usually take this a step further, and I will then expound on it further, saying that actually, if we look back at our lives, here's my hypothesis number two. Everything that we've done from the time we were born up until now has been on that quest for happiness and wanting to avoid suffering. Yes. From being a newborn and crying, right? It's because you're experiencing this right now. We have a new mother here in the audience. So then the baby starts crying and it's a bit of a guessing game, right? What do you want? You want the bottle? You need a diaper change? You need a blankie? Something like this, right? So whatever that baby is experiencing, some kind of suffering, and it's crying, that someone, hopefully mommy, will come and alleviate that suffering, right? Then later on, as we start to go to school, whether we are playing or whether we're studying, yeah, diligently, we're trying to, get happiness or avoid suffering, right? So sometimes it is wanting to avoid suffering or being scolded when we're not doing our homework, right? Or not doing well enough on the exam. And later, hopefully, we get some, love of learning, right? So then I like to say, even like when we start to get a little bit older, but still in school, those ones who are very diligent, staying home on the weekends to study, right? Maybe a big exam is coming up, you gotta study, right? Or the ones who, go out on the weekends, right? Their motivation is fundamentally the same, wanting happiness and not wanting to suffer, right? They have a little bit difference in how they think about happiness, right? But still the motivation is the same. Right? Then later, going out, so getting on with our lives, starting our careers, earning money, right? Buying stuff. Yeah. Why do we need stuff? It'll make us happy, right? right? And then, oh yeah, I was trying to be, I'm trying, I'm trying to be more healthy, right? So I started running, you know, working out, right? It's tough. Your body's sore afterwards, right? But yet, um, you know, until you do it well enough, and you start to get the runner's high, these variables, the runner's high, right? Then it's a lot of pain. But you, as they say, right, no pain, no gain, right? So you're doing that thinking this is going to maybe be some short-term pain, but long-term I'm going to be healthy and I'm going to avoid getting sick and blah blah blah. Right? Now the person who just stays home never exercises and just watches I don't know, Netflix or something, right? They're also thinking this is going to be my best, right? So there's some long and short-term differences, but everyone has the same motivation. Okay? That's not Buddhist knowledge. And we should also say this. It's not as nice to think about, but I think it's also true. Those of you, well, maybe let's take it like this in romantic relationships. Okay? Yeah. Even the one who's very faithful to their partner, okay, and the one who cheats on their partner, they both are motivated by what they think is going to be best for them. Yeah. Yeah. So like that. Even when we do so-called negative actions, right? Or the person stealing, right? Or the person being, honest. They both are doing what they think is going to bring them the most happiness. Okay. So let's talk about number two. Number three, when we look, well, this is true for me. You guys check your own lives about this, right? But when I look deeply at my life, especially before I encountered Dharma, um, right? Then when I think about what I actually was doing, like my strategy for getting that happiness and to avoid suffering, right? What were we doing? Well, getting a good job and trying to earn money, having nice sensory experiences, going to nice restaurants, eating good food, drinking a nice drink, going to nice parties, going to nice vacations, right? All these things. So, in a sense, or yes, don't forget buying the nicer things, right? Remember, so those of you who are new to my style, I sometimes will just tell stories. Also, just as a preface, I just flew in yesterday from Hawaii. I'm not saying that to show off, okay? I'm saying that because it's 15 and a half hours time difference. It is now 2:10 a.m. in my body clock. And so the stories might even be quite going here and there. Okay. I remember my first job out of university, uh, New York, and the apartments were unfurnished, so I had to go buy a bed. And I went out and bought a bed, and I remember the person at the mattress store, selling the beds. He was a great salesman, and this bed it was a lot more expensive than what I wanted to pay, right? But he's like, "Hey, you're gonna spend every night sleeping on this bed. If you don't sleep well, then the next day at work, you're not gonna be able to perform. Blah 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 blah." So I'm like, wow, yes. I was so taken by this argumentation that I went way over my budget for the bed. It's just like, uh, Swedish like foam top. I think they use it on the space shuttle or something. Anyway, I think really good bed. Anyway, we do that, right? We justify all these things. The greatest bed. Oh, gotta have this, gotta have that. Okay. But what do we see about all those things? Our energy, our attention, our efforts are directed at the outside, right? Arranging the outside world to give us that happiness, that satisfaction, or to avoid suffering. Okay? Yes. And hey, uh, there's not to be critical of anyone, right? But it's just to understand where we are, right? And how we've been living our lives. Yeah. Because that is, we are all a product of modern society and we're constantly bombarded with all these advertisements and all this. So, it's not that you're a bad person, but we just have to understand how we've been living our lives, right? Okay. What's that? That's the third. Yes. Yes. Okay. Now, here's the thing. Is the outside material development alone uh, sufficient to get us the happiness that we truly seek? Okay. That's worth checking. Okay. So now, mind you, because some people get a bad impression of Buddhism, where they're saying, oh, you hear these words, renunciation, right? Then it's like, oh, I have to give up everything, right? So it's not like that. It's not like that. Given a choice, I'd rather have a nice bed and eat nice food and all these things, right? But the question is that accumulation of more stuff with better meals, I don't know, better mattresses, okay? Is that going to give us the happiness we truly seek? Yeah. So then we can run a kind of thought experiment. And if it were the case that that was sufficient for happiness, then these people we see, right? The celebrities, the millionaires, billionaires. Now we have our first trillionaire, Elon Musk. Yes. Sorry, guys. I saw in the news. SpaceX IPO. Anyway, sorry. I used to know on finance. These things. Okay. So anyway, if it were the case that that was enough, then every one of those celebrities, every one of those, millionaire, billionaire, zillionaires, right? They'd be so happy, right? Is that the case? Mm-mm. No, no. Uh, of course, I don't know what's going on in people's minds, but some of these people, they don't seem like nice people that I want to be out of. I don't know. Right? Maybe. Maybe it's all an act. Maybe I'm really inside a great guy or gal. Okay. But and then you also see in this, these celebrities how much, like drug and alcohol abuse there is, right? Even how much suicide there is, So and even these Hollywood, and I'm sure now this is coming to Bollywood. The celebrity marriage gets all this hype, right? And then the celebrity divorce. So even that is a symptom of some deep underlying dissatisfaction, right? Then on the flip side, we have to have a counterpoint. They're, very amazingly have been for centuries. Many sages, many ascetic yogis, you know. You might have heard the story of the great Tibetan yogi Milarepa. Milarepa? Yes? Wow. No? Okay, it's okay to say you don't know. Everyone here except one person knew Milarepa. Okay, that's okay. Good, good. Okay. See, if you knew everything, I would not have a job, right? Okay. I would just tell more stories. Anyway, so the great Tibetan yogi Milarepa was very famously completely poor. He had only one robe and his only possession. He had one kind of clay bowl. That's it. So, and you see, many great sages, and not just in the Buddhist tradition, but across many different traditions, living very simple, humble lives without many possessions, but completely content. No craving, not feeling like they're missing anything. You know, or just living in some cave. You know, not knowing where the next meal is coming from. It's great. So, see, that was number 4. The material external development alone is not sufficient, right? So, because of that, you see, you saw this in the preliminary prayers, right? Do not commit a single negative action, accumulate a host of perfect pure actions to thoroughly subdue one's own mind. This is the teaching of Buddha. Okay. So this is a very important. You see why in Buddhism there's so much emphasis put on the mind. Mm-hmm. And so here, the point is, in Buddhism, we don't talk about a creator God, a God that created everything, but there is a lot of talk about how the mind is the creator, right? The mind is the creator in the sense, well, the mind is the lens, as it were, through which we experience the world, right? And so, uh, the same external circumstance can be interpreted in many ways by your own mind. And that interpretation, the way you view it, then creates your reality. Okay? Now, here's the example I want to use. So, um, my friends who are on the Zoom, so we're now here in Bangalore. Okay? Monsoon has started. Okay? It's a bit humid. I come from Hawaii, which is also in the tropics, but it's a lot hotter here. It's a lot hotter. So I came into my hotel, a great hotel. I love it. But I came in at 4 in the morning yesterday. And bless the guy who opened up my room, I had to wake him up, all this stuff. And he takes me to my room, and the AC wasn't working. The AC wasn't working. Okay. So what I honestly thought, I've stayed there, for many years now. I thought because of all this business with the Iran war and the oil prices and energy prices and all this. I thought they were doing some kind of cost cutting, like, save energy, right? Right? We got to all make sacrifices as good citizens. So I'm like, okay, I will, I will, I will endure this heat as I try to sleep. But as you know, it's actually never better to sleep in a cool environment, right? Sleep hygiene. You're reading the articles, right? This is very difficult. Plus, I'm on jet lag and didn't sleep very well. Okay. Point is, if you're in a room, you're expecting AC, you're wanting AC, and the AC is broken. Okay. My hypothesis, right? If there was just a room and there was no AC in the window, then you'd be like, oh, okay, I have AC. There's one there, you know. So your mind is like, oh, I'm so close. Beep, beep, beep. You try to turn it on, and it doesn't work. I think you'll feel worse. What do you think? I think so too. Okay. All right. So that's just two people, maybe the temperature of the room is the same. One has a broken AC and one doesn't have an AC at all. The one with the broken AC, I think is going to suffer more. That's my hypothesis. Yeah? Okay. Now, there's a third room that's even hotter. That's even hotter than those two rooms with broken AC. Okay? Called a sauna. Okay? Now, the person in that room is sweating even more than I was sweating at 4 in the morning. They're sweating and they're trying to turn up the heat. Right? Right? Oh. Because how are they interpreting? Oh, it's good that I sweat. I'm getting out the toxins. You understand? Right? Yes. Then you see, this is how the mind creates reality. Based on your concept, it's not just hot room equals suffering, right? Right? If it was hot room equals suffering, then anyone in the hot room would suffer. But it depends on our mind. You see? Depends on them. So why there's so much emphasis on Buddhism is, you see, those external world, we actually have very little control. Despite what we might think, we have actually very little control about what happens to us. Yeah. Now, of course, we're not denying huge advances in technology in certain areas, right? In general, the life expectancy has gone up a lot. All these things was great. We're not anti-material progress, right? But we're just saying that's only the most so far. And so, because, hey, we're not going to invent some kind of technology or not in the foreseeable future that's going to then make everyone just say everything we like to us, right? Maybe we'll get some goggles and then have a virtual reality. Everyone says nice things to us, but hey, in the real world, there are going to be some difficult people. Yeah. No one is always going to do what we want them to do all the time. Yeah. So there's a great analogy from Shantideva. I'm sure you've heard of Shantideva. Yes? Yeah. Yes? That's okay. No, thank you. Thank you for your honesty. Shantideva was a great Indian master. Um, and he wrote a very quintessential text, the Bodhisattva Charyavatara. And in that, he gives this analogy. Where could you find enough leather to cover the entire surface of the earth? But if you wear sandals, it serves the same purpose, right? Similarly, how could I come to subdue all the unruly beings of the world? But if I subdue my own mind, what need is there for anything else? You understand? So the other thing with monsoon, yeah. See, I have a little thing about drainage. Okay. So I went for a walk today and I'm walking through the streets. There's all these poor drainage, big puddles, a lot of like, it's okay, but you don't want to step in that stuff, right? So with all the stuff you don't want to step in, you have two choices. You could conceivably just cover it all up, right, with leather. But how are you going to do it? With shoes, sandals, right? But everywhere you go, right, that is protecting your feet. So like that, how are we going to get everyone to then do everything we like all the time? Impossible. People make their own choices. And this happens quite a lot. People might think they're doing something nice to you, but you take it the wrong way. I think I do this a lot. I'm sorry if I've done this in relation to you, right? So the point is, if you subdue your own mind, then no matter what kind of external circumstances you face, you're protected, right? So in essence, the Dharma is getting our mental sandals, whereby our happiness or suffering is going to no longer be dependent on the external circumstances we find ourselves in. Wow. Wouldn't that be great? Yeah. So that's why there's so much emphasis on the mind in Buddhism. Now, of course, in that stanza, do not commit a single negative action, commit a host of perfect pure actions, right? Those two lines are also talking about another element of how the mind is the creator, and that has to deal with the view of karma, cause and effect, right? From our negative actions come suffering results. From our positive, virtuous actions come happy results. So, because we want happiness and want to avoid suffering, we then have to, uh, make sure we don't commit the causes of suffering, and we can accumulate as much as we can the causes of happiness. Yeah. But then that then goes next into the next verse, right? Next line. Thirdly, subduing our mind. Because what determines whether our action is virtuous or non virtuous is the motivation with which we undertake the action, right? So when we get angry, when we get jealous, when we get greedy, something, right? Then we get angry, we'll harm others. When we're greedy, we'll steal from others and so forth. Whereas when we have a virtuous state of mind, like being generous, compassionate, we'll offer charity, we will help others, create good karma, and that will ripen as pleasant experiences for us in the future. So that all is the sort of primacy of the mind. Yeah. So Shantideva also said, although beings do not want to suffer, they run toward the causes of suffering. And although beings want happiness, they destroy its causes like an enemy. So, yeah, the Buddha then the fundamental kind of insight that the Buddha had then was, of course, encapsulated in the Four Noble Truths. You know, Four Noble Truths. Oh, great. Is it your first time here? Oh, welcome. Oh, so good. I'm so excited for you. We have a first timer. Wow. Maybe it's worth reviewing just a little bit of the Buddha's life story. Although I think I hope you learned this in school, right? No, not anymore. Some parts. See, this is the thing, right? All of our jobs are going to be taken by AI anyway. So these things that, you know, weren't useful before, like the Buddha's life story, not useful, they're going to become even more useful. Hopefully, this is my sincere hope, that the rise of AI, it takes all our jobs, and then we'll have so much more free time. What do you think? Yeah? It'll create an abundant world where we all just have free time. We can meditate all day. Huh? Practice Dharma? No? Go on pilgrimage? You go to the beach? Uh, so the Buddha um, was born into a royal family. Yeah? And at the time of his birth, then the kind of astrologers told his father that his son was going to become either a great religious leader or a great king. You know? And so the king, wanting his son to uphold the lineage, then had this thought, okay, I don't want my son to become a religious leader, an ascetic, so I'm going to spoil him. I'm going to keep him in the palace, spoil him with all the luxuries, and so he'll never think to leave the palace. Right? Okay. Anyway, I'll be a bit accelerated. So this works for the first, I don't know, 14, 15 years of Buddha's life. And then when he's, an adolescent, for the first time, Prince Siddhartha leaves the palace for the first time. And on that first outing, he encounters the first four great sights. He sees for the first time an old person, a sick person, a dead body. Yeah. And after those three sights, he asks his attendant, what happened to this person? And it's an old person, my prince. Is this the only one? No, everyone gets old. Who's this? There's a sick person. Is it the only one? No, most people get sick. And then everyone dies, right? Last person he sees, or the last great sight, was that of an ascetic, a sadhu, yeah, sannyasa. And this is also the first time the young prince saw someone like that, and was told that this person has left behind a worthy life to achieve liberation from suffering, moksha. Yeah. So the young prince goes back to his father and says, hey, Dad, you're the most powerful person in the land. Can you put an end, please, to sickness, aging, and death? No, son, I cannot. Okay. So then the Buddha, the young prince, then knew what he had to do. And he thought, even if the most powerful person on the land can't put an end to this kind of suffering, I need to find a way to do it. And so he left the palace. Then he trained with the great masters of the time. Anyway, he eventually left them and went to train on his own. Went to Bodh sat in a tree, and the rest is history. But the point of all this, that realization that the Buddha had, and therefore the first teaching that he gave was on the so-called Four Noble Truths. And the first is the truth of suffering. And, well, within that, the Buddha describes various levels and degrees of suffering, right? So we all know the more obvious suffering, like a toothache or being tired from jet lag. But even the more subtle forms of suffering, like eating a delicious meal, right? Now, what we consider, oh, that's so great, you know? Well, at the time, it might be okay. But one, it ends, right? It ends. And just the mere fact of that sensory pleasure being impermanent means that it's not lasting satisfaction, right? And so that in and of itself is a reason why it is dukkha, yeah, which is more than just the suffering and pain, but it describes also some element of just things being unsatisfactory, ultimately unsatisfying. Yeah. Hmm. So then, yeah, that's the truth of suffering. Then the next one, and this is the more important uh, diagnosis. Not just that we're suffering, but the second truth is the truth of the cause of suffering, the origins of suffering, which is fundamentally, why are we suffering? Right? This is very important because if we don't understand why we're suffering, then how are we going to get rid of suffering? Okay? And here the insight was that there's two main causes of suffering. It's the karma, our actions, and then the klesha, the afflictive emotions, the disturbing emotions that underlay our actions. Like I was saying, we get angry, we then, harm, reckless. So, although there's many kinds of afflictions, well, the most important one is actually the one that's going to be discussed explicitly in the Vajra Sutra. Right? It's a prajna paramita, prajna wisdom. So it's a particular kind of wisdom, right? And it's a wisdom of sort of the ultimate nature of reality, how things exist. Yeah. So our fundamental confusion about the way we and other phenomena exist is what then leads us to suffer. So I have to be very skillful with a new person. You know, this is one way I like to explain it. We know this saying, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, right? Yeah, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. What does that mean? Right? Essentially, it means that any object, this flower, right? What do you think? It's nice? What the saying, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, is pointing to is there's no objective beauty there, but in the eye of the beholder is the person looking at it, right? It's only their kind of perception of it. Okay? Yeah. I think it's easier to see. Same thing with food. Yeah? Food. I'm a bit of a foodie, some of you know. I'm so happy to be back in South India. I've already had dosa twice, idli once. Okay. So, you know, with food, it's the same thing. We think deliciousness, right, is somehow there in the food, right? Yeah. But, well, one example, some of you might know, only a few, but one of the former members here, who has since moved to California, Nidhi, remember her? So Nidhi, she now lives in California with her husband, got a job there, blah, blah, blah. So I went to visit, okay? And uh, they made a meal for me. And before the meal, she was like, Namjong, I know you don't take spice, so don't worry. We made it very mild for you. Okay? So I ate this, and it was still one of the hottest meals I've ever eaten. I was crying, sweating, like red in the face. And all I could think was, if this is mild, right? They made it especially mild for me. And this is mild. What the heck are they eating normally? Right? So it's like this, right? Some people might like spicy food, right? If it's not spicy, it's like, what is this? Tasteless, right? Other, oh man, it's too hot. I can't eat it. Right? So the spice or no spice, right? If it was somehow delicious because of the food itself, everyone tasting it being right? A more stark example is, well, again, not to criticize anyone, because as an American, for a great portion of my youth into my 20s, I used to eat non-veg, right? Then starting to think about animals and their suffering, I think all this. I then came to be vegetarian, and I tell you, after I made the connection to the animals suffering, I didn't miss it. I never had any cravings at all, you know. And like the rest of my family, man, you know, it's always it's always a thing going back to like my mother's house and like my brother. He likes to, you know, You gotta eat meats, all this stuff, right? Then I look at it and it's like, oh, you know, he views it, it's the most delicious thing. I view it, and sometimes I'm like, you know, really. So if the deliciousness was somehow established on the side of the whatever piece of food, piece of animal flesh, then everyone would have the same perception. It's not that. That's why we say beauty is not the order, right? Right? Now, we might think that intellectually, but what actually happens, right? We have a kind of innate, we have some intellectual, yeah, that's true, Namjong. But we have an innate kind of conception that actually there is beauty from the side of object. Okay? Because what will we do? If we go out, okay, and well, this is something nice, right? We go out. Momos? Momos? Yeah, everyone likes momos. And we try different kinds. There's the fried, the steamed, then kote. You know kote? Kote. Yes. Wow. She doesn't know Milarepa. She doesn't know Shandideva. She knows kote momos. Yes, it's a nice one. You should know kote. It's a pan fried, not deep fried, just in the pan. Very nice. Okay. Then we get the different ones. Now they have ones with a sauce on top, like a Szechuan sauce, this. Man, when I moved to India 20 years ago, there's just one kind of momo. Now there's like, right? Because people aren't satisfied with just one. Okay? So we go out to momos and we get 5 different kinds of momos, right? Then we'll ask, oh, what's your favorite? Right? Oh, I like the Szechuan. And then the others, what? What are you talking about? No, the kote is the best. Here, have another one of the kote, right? Huh? Right? What does that show? Yeah. It shows, no. Something must be defective. Just like if we had a scale, right? And we were weighing something, we're weighing the flour, and 100 grams, 100 grams, 100 grams, 200 grams, we'd say, oh, your scale is broken. Try again, right? Try another momo. No. The one you had might have been undercooked. Try it again, then you'll agree. The one I like is the tastiest. I see we have one friend tuning in from Singapore. Okay. So in Singapore, you guys know the durian fruit? Durian fruit, right? You have here. Oh, wow. Actually, I saw durian in Hawaii. I was shocked. What happened? There's a Vietnamese temple, and they brought the durian, and they now sell durian at one of the farmers markets. Anyway, so I love Singapore. Okay, I've been there many times, and then my Singaporean friends, they many of them they love durian, right? And so they're always wanting to give me durian. So okay, I'll try it once. It's a very smelly fruit, you guys know, right? Very smelly. So then I tried it. They're very happy to take me to durian. I tried it. Yuck. I didn't like it at all. At all. Okay. So then I go back the next time, and then the other friends tell me, or they ask, oh, have you had durian? I said, yeah, and I didn't like it. And then what did they say? Oh, but you didn't have the good one. I'll take you to the good one. I know this other place. They'll take it that one. Right? You see? They gave you the bad one because they knew you're a foreigner. My guy will give you the good one. What is all this saying? Beauty is in the eye beholder, we say, right? We pay lip service to, but we have an innate conception that the beauty, that the goodness is somehow established in the object itself, right? There's a kind of intrinsic reality of the object and its properties that's independent from our mind. And just like we hold that, okay, you know, we put the flower on the scale, and everyone's scale, if it's working correctly, would have the same number, right? Right? Because objectively, you know, this weighs what it weighs. Similarly, we have a concept that the beauty, the deliciousness, the or unattractiveness is somehow there in the object. Once we believe that, then we think, oh, the beauty is there from the side of the flower, then I want the flower. You try to take the flower away from me, we're going to get into a fight. Or if there's something ugly, then I want to destroy it because this ugliness I don't want in my life. That's going to cause me suffering. I will then destroy. You see? So, although the other afflictions like anger, which is related to aversion, which is related to projecting the object as being inherently unattractive, and then attachment, which is related to attraction, which is because we hold the object to be inherently good or beautiful or delicious, is only possible because we have a concept thinking that the thing in and of itself is objectively existent in the first place. Yeah. No objectively existent flower, then there's no objectively beautiful flower. Right? Let's get that. So this is the fundamental misapprehension, the fundamental confusion, the fundamental projection that binds us in samsara. In other words, that's the source of all of our problems. Now that's quite something. The rest of our sessions, we're going to go into more detail about this and the antidote. But right now, I'm just setting the table. Sorry for the food analogy, but I'm just setting the table. Okay. And then we'll unpack it more later. Okay. So now, that was the second noble truth. Truth of the cause of suffering. Third noble truth, truth of the cessation of suffering. Cessation of suffering. Cessation means it can stop, it can end, it can cease. And the fourth is the path leading to the cessation of suffering. Okay? Which is basically the method. You hear this a lot, right? Path, yeah. Because just like any journey, you know, you are at your starting point and you go to your final destination, right? So our starting point is right here in samsara, and our destination, hopefully one day, is the same destination of the historical Buddha, right? And in order to do that, we have to traverse the path, which is a series of trainings with the accompanying realizations that lead us closer to that state. So the truth of the cessation of suffering is just the fact that this ignorance that we have that binds us to samsara can be abandoned. And this is made possible from the fact that the truth that acts as the direct antidote to our ignorance exists. So let me explain. When we talk about ignorance, right, it's a not knowing something, right? But although there's many kinds of not knowing, right? There'd be a not knowing of some kind of fact, like how many countries are in Africa or something, right? There's some facts. I don't know that. I'm ignorant of that, right? But here, the kind of ignorance that binds us to samsara is more than just a mere not knowing, but it's an active projection of something above and beyond what's there. Okay? Now here, the analogy I like to use is the monster in the closet. Yeah. So I think your son was too young for this. But in a few years, maybe one day, the son will come to you and say, Mommy, there's a monster in my closet. I'm scared. Okay? Right? So to prepare you for that day, what are you going to say? What are you going to do? Let's go and open the closet door and see. Yes. This is a great strategy. Because what happens? You open the door, turn on the light, your son will then see there's no monster. Then, when the mind holding on to the existence of the monster is dispelled, fancy way of saying, the son no longer believes in a monster, then any of the fear of the monster is also going to go away naturally. You don't have to do anything else. Right? Right? Wow. I know the old friend has entered. I 90 minutes late, but here, it's actually a very good strategy. Rather, I'm going to tease you a little bit. But he came in and he was carrying his like work badge from like the office, right? Which gives the impression he's come from the office. He probably has. I'm just joking. I'm just joking with you. I've known him a long time, so I can tease. It's a good strategy though. You know, you come in late, just have like something makes you look a little bit official. Sorry, okay. Where was I? All right. What was this thing? Oh yes, monster. When you discover there's no monster in the closet, when your son discovers there's no monster in the closet, then all the fear goes away naturally. Okay. So what our ignorance is actually doing, it's not just a not knowing, but it's believing in something that's not there. Just like the child's belief in the monster, right? So we have a mind, if we just look at my hands, we have a mind that grasps onto, that believes in the monster. When we discover that this one that the mind is holding on to, believes is real, is actually non-existent, then that mind also goes away, right? So here, what the ignorance that binds us to samsara is doing, it believes in a mode of existence of the I, right? It believes in a kind of false I, right? Above and beyond what's actually there. And when we discover, when we analyze, hey, does that thing that my mind believes in, does that really exist? When we discover it doesn't, then all the other afflictions, when we understand that the flower doesn't exist as it appears to us, then we understand that there's no beauty there. And then we won't have attachment to it. You understand? So that's how all of the other afflictions will be sort of expelled or dispelled, abandoned through just the cultivation of this wisdom. Right? So that wisdom of ultimate reality is the prajna that we're talking about when we talk about Prajnapadamita Sutras. Anyway, I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. But the point is, and what I wanted you to understand through you might have heard this quotation from Nagarjuna. Nagarjuna, another very illustrious Indian master, in that he praises the Lord Buddha by saying, enthused by great compassion, you taught the holy Dharma to overcome all wrong views, to Gautam, Buddha, and Prashur. Okay, right? So, enthused by great compassion, compassion is this wish that others be free from suffering. And enthused or sort of motivated by this, that's why the Buddha left the palace. He had to discover a way to liberate beings from suffering, right? So enthused by great compassion, then what he then discovered is that the root of suffering actually is these wrong views. Those wrong views, the ignorance, can be overcome only by wisdom. So you taught the holy Dharma to overcome all wrong views. Was the fundamental discovery also contained in the Four Noble Truths? That the truth of the origin of suffering, right? The ignorance is the origin of our suffering. Then to get out of suffering, we need to uproot the ignorance. So teaching Holy Dharma, that's going to expound correctly the view of reality. Yeah? You taught the Holy Dharma to overcome all wrong views, to Gautam Buddha posture. And a similar similar kind of meaning is explained in another sutra quotation, that the Buddhas do not wash away our sins with water, nor do they remove suffering with their hands, nor do they transfer their realization to another mind stream, but the Buddhas liberate beings by teaching the reality. Yeah? Yeah? So, the Buddha has compassion for all of us. And so if it were as easy as, say, removing our suffering like a thorn, the Buddha would have done it already. Right? If there could be just some I know there's a tradition to bathe in the Ganga, all the bodies in Varanasi, washes away the sins and whatnot. Although there are some ritual kind of practices in Buddhism as well, yes, but that alone isn't going to be the ultimate answer, right? Because the origin of suffering is in our own minds, with our own ignorance. And so the only way to overcome that is by then developing the wisdom that counteracts the ignorance. And so that is why the Buddha taught. You guys know this? Behind these statues on the side there, you see all those orange, yeah, they're wrapped in cloth, orange cloth. Do you know what that is? That's all of the sutras, 108 volumes of sutras, and then there's 215 volumes of the the Tangur, or the commentaries written by the Indian masters. Okay. Now, I will say, I think it's kind of done. So, although it's great to see the Indians, you Indians getting interest in Buddhism. If you write a very good commentary, I don't think it'll be. But don't let that stop you. Okay. So the Buddha taught all of those 108 volumes of sutra, right? Really? Like Shantideva says, all of the other branches were coming to the point to develop this wisdom. So, but the point is, all of the teachings fundamentally were to guide beings to understand the truth of ultimate nature. Okay? But it's very profound. It's very profound. And, well, there's a nice quotation. How much time do we have? Good. We have 23 minutes. This is good. This is good. So, those of you who have been coming here for a little bit of time, you all are familiar with the Lamrim. Lamrim. Hmm? What's that? You're studying it again. Great. Okay. And is loud. Otherwise, you can say, we're studying it again. It's so good. Study it again and again and again. I'm joking. So this is nice. Hundred eight volumes of sutras. Right? And we're going to be just studying one from that old list. But many of them, it's a similar format, right? After the Buddha was enlightened, he then spent most of his time in northern India, walking around, basically. And wherever he would stop, people would come and ask him questions, and he would have a conversation with them. And later, that formed the basis of the sutras. So it was always based on questions, on whoever you met, what was on their mind, what they wanted to know. Okay? Then the answers to those became the basis of the sutras. Now, for those of you who've been studying Lamrim, okay, do you want a pop quiz? Do I need to test you? See how you guys have been doing in my absence? And don't think, by the way, you guys on the Zoom, I also see you. Okay. So at the beginning of Lam Rim, it talks about the four greatnesses of the Lam Rim. Yes? Yes? So even if you don't know the four, do you remember that they talk about the four? Yeah? Okay. So what's the first one? Oh yeah, very good. The greatness of coming to realize that all the Buddha's teachings are free from contradiction. Yes. So why is that? First, why could some of the teachings be seen as potentially being contradictory? It's because this. When the Buddha was traveling around and someone asked him a question, okay? You see, one of the, perhaps the most important quality of the Buddha is that the Buddha is said to be omniscient, all-knowing. Means the Buddha can see the individual karma, the individual kind of intelligence levels and aptitude and preconceived notions of each person, and would then tailor the message, whatever's going to be most beneficial for that person. You understand? Yeah. So it says also in Lam Rim, if there were, 100 people who all asked the Buddha the same question, the Buddha would give 100 tailored answers to each of the person's mind stream, right? Now we come later, 2,500 years later, we read those sutras, and it could be like, oh, this sutra, same question as this one, but two entirely different answers. And then, if we're not careful, if we're not wise, if we haven't studied Lam Rim, then we'll say, hey, he's contradicting himself, right? Then we can just say, oh man, nah, Buddha's not as good as they're saying, because he's just a massive contradictions, which would be a great loss, right? Yeah. So the point is here, in order to guide beings in a skillful way, right? Um, well, there's this quotation from Nagarjuna again. Okay. Just this is Nagarjuna. Just as a grammarian, a teacher of grammar, first has students read a model of the alphabet. Yeah. So the Buddha taught disciples the doctrines they could bear. They could bear means they could understand. To some, he taught doctrines to turn them away from non-virtue. To some, for the sake of acquiring merit. To some, doctrines based on duality. Okay, okay, we'll talk about that in a second. To some, doctrines based on non-duality. To some, what is profound and frightening to the fearful, having the essence of emptiness and compassion, the means of attaining enlightenment. Okay. So you get the analogy, right? You first, don't learn English by reading Shakespeare, right? First, the alphabet, words, sentences, paragraphs, gradually. So too, the Buddha led beings gradually to more profound doctrine, right? And so these first ones, to turn them away from non-virtue, for some sake of acquiring merit, okay? This is what we also saw in the Dhammapada. Do not commit a single negative action, accumulate a host of virtuous actions, okay? Now, those of you who know Lam Rim, yes, the practices designed for the person of initial capacity, what are those? Yes. So we can think of, remember we're talking about the path to enlightenment? We can think of the path as having three kind of practitioners who are distinguished by their primary goal. Okay? Now, the first practitioner, their main goal is to get a good rebirth in the next life. You know? And it's interesting, that's kind of the bar for what makes one a Dharma practitioner. Right? Kind of interesting, right? We don't come to the Dharma class for like, things of this life. Right? Yeah. So for those beings who want just a good rebirth in the next life, they have to then inquire what are the causes of a good rebirth and what are the causes of a bad rebirth. And then adopt the causes they like, abandon the causes they don't like, seeing that the good and bad rebirths are from karma, then abandoning non-virtue and accumulating virtue. That's the first goal. Yeah. But is that enough? As great as that is, so then the person of medium capacity, right? So those of you who've been doing that, this is a review for my new friends. This is the essence. Okay. If you understand this, wow. Okay. No, really, really. The middle one, they see what the initial practitioner sees. And they see the relative disadvantages of rebirth in lower realms. They see the relative advantages of a good rebirth. But they ask the question, is that enough? And, well, what? Even if they were to get another good rebirth like this as a human, well, what about the one after that? Right? So it's not a permanent state. You get another good rebirth as a human, well, still we're going to only live another 80, 90 years. And then what after that? And as many of us have experienced, even as a human, which is a good rebirth, in the whole scheme of samsaric life, there's still so much suffering. Yeah. So then they don't just want a good rebirth, but they want out of the whole cycle of samsara. And then they inquire, why am I suffering in samsara? And then they'll meditate and discover the truth of those Four Noble Truths. And they'll see the truth of the cause of suffering. That's what binds me. And they'll try to adopt the last two truths. They'll try to actualize the cessation of suffering by following the path leading to cessation of suffering, which just is meditating on the ultimate nature of reality, which will be the antidote to the ignorance. Okay? Yeah. Easy. Then the great practitioner, right? They still see the false of samsara. They see how ignorance binds us all in samsara, but they then say, hey, is that enough? And here, they say, wait, even if I attain liberation for myself, I'm just one person. Whereas all the other beings will still be in samsara. I'll get out, but everyone else will be suffering. Okay? So maybe we would think, that's their problem. Right? Yeah. I don't want to suffer. I'm just going to take care of my suffering. That's enough. I wish you guys luck. See ya. Right? But these great practitioners, they're just like the Buddha, enthused by great compassion. Not only just saying, hey, like we did at the beginning, yeah, may all beings be free from suffering and the cause of suffering, right? It's okay, but in the Mahayana tradition, we don't just say, may all beings be free from suffering when it causes suffering, right? It'd be like if we see a beggar, right? And we say, oh, may you have a meal. May you find delicious food. I'm going to eat my fourth idli dosa of the day. No, but they take the personal responsibility, saying, and you might have seen this, some of you more experienced students, you might have seen this iteration of the four immeasurable thoughts. Not just may all beings be free from suffering, but I myself will cause them to be free from suffering or cause their suffering. Ah. So that taking personal responsibility to free them from their suffering, that is a distinguishing characteristic of the Mahayana practitioner. Then, of course, you have to see, wait a minute, as I am now, I'm very limited in my ability to help others, right? Mhm. So then you then think, wait a minute. If I'm able to develop all my good qualities to their fullest potential and abandon all my faults, then I'll be better suited to help others. Now, that state of fully developing all your good qualities and abandoning all the faults of the mind, that just is what Buddhahood is. That's what enlightenment is. You understand? So in this tradition, all beings have that potential to become same level of realization as the historical Buddha. Is that amazing? I think so. But you see, it's easy to say. I get that sometimes. That's easy for you to say, right? And it is easy for me to say. But actually, if we're honest, it seems that the way we live our lives, we don't really believe. That's my hypothesis. I shouldn't talk about you guys. I'll just say that for myself, right? It says in the text, our friend Milarepa, who I mentioned, he, in the early part of his life, performed black magic. You know, there's a whole long story about his life. He was performing black magic to get revenge on an uncle who betrayed his father, all this stuff, right? Okay. Anyway, in the acting of black magic, casting spells, he then killed many humans, the horses, all this stuff. So he committed a lot of, you know, bad karma in the early part of his life. Yet still, by the end of his life, he was enlightened, right? So, what's the difference? We all have the same body. We all have access to the teachings. We probably even have better conditions, right? He didn't have, even one rupee to his name, right? So what's the difference? What do we do with our time? There's a very famous quotation of his saying, fearing death, I fled to the mountains. So he famously practiced in caves all along the Himalayas. Yeah. So fearing death, okay? And in the commentary, I'll say, it's not just death that he feared. He feared that if he died before he purified his negative karma, he'd be reborn in a bad place, right? Death in and of itself, not so bad, right? But as Lama Zopa Rinpoche used to say, The real problem is death having not purified your negative karma. Okay, so anyway, fearing death, I fled to the mountains. Now I realize the unborn nature of the mind, means the ultimate nature of the mind. Now, even if I die, I will have no fear. No? Means he's become enlightened, then no problem. Okay. All right. What's your name? Anila. Okay. So, Nila, do you understand what we're talking about? Lammering the three types of person. Yeah. Each of their goals. Amazing. Amazing. So the great Indian master Aryadeva, he said, first you abandon non-virtue. In the middle, you abandon the view of the self. At the end, you abandon all wrong views. One who knows this is wise. So that is in one stanza, the whole Lamrim. The three scopes, first abandon non-virtue. The view of the self, that's what the middle practitioner does to abandon samsara. Abandoning all wrong views means that's the quality of only the Buddha, omniscient. So at the end, that's the goal of the third practitioner. So one who knows this is wise. So in the first session at Choe Khor Sum Ling, we've already become wise in the eyes of our Buddha. So all wrong views. Well, so here, so she's asking what the third one, how that differs from the view of the self. In the middle, one abandons the view of the self. At the end, one abandons all wrong views. So in since you've attended more classes, you know there's the obscurations to liberation and the obscurations to omniscience. So the obscurations to omniscience is what is abandoned by the bodhisattva. And that will include them, literally all wrong views, right? So although the arhats, those who attain liberation, they don't have a wrong view of self. They could think, for example, do I have time for this? You remember the old man who wanted to ordain, and he went to Shariputra, and Shariputra didn't see any roots of virtue in the old man's continuum, so he turned him away. Buddha was able to see he could ordain as a monk. So just that was a wrong view that Shariputra had, and that gets eliminated by meditating on emptiness conjoined with bodhicitta. Okay, but we're going to get into that more tomorrow. So, our time is up. I'm very happy with the amount we've covered. It's good. That's setting the context for the entire Dharma, I think. Okay. Don't be nervous. We haven't even opened the sutra yet. Okay. If we understand the context, then we'll have more meaning. We'll understand the big picture. Okay. So maybe if there's a question related to what we talked about today, we can cover that. Otherwise, Dipsy? Huh? Dipsy is, yeah, I don't know, like, is this, oh, yes. So, yeah, Dipti, who's now the director here, doing a great job keeping the lights on. She just brought up one of our very cherished longtime members who unfortunately passed away. Subhashini, I think some of you might know her. And Dipti was thinking about a question that Subhashini would ask. Anyway. I always remember Subhashini would often say this, talking about how what I'm explaining is just very difficult, especially when we start talking about bodhicitta and we talk about cherishing others more than oneself, right? Or just as an example, but many things she would say, oh, this is so difficult, this is so difficult. And I remember see, this is one of the benefits of teaching. Sometimes during the interaction with the audience and their questions, sometimes with the blessing of the Guru, things can click. The one time, this has clicked for me. And it was related to something Lama Zopa Rinpoche had said. But Subhashini's question made me think, you think this is hard, right? Cherishing others. Okay? But what's really hard is since we haven't abandoned the self-cherishing mind, since we haven't abandoned the ignorance grasping onto the self, we have been born from beginningless time in samsara over and over and over and over again. And every one of those lives we've experienced countless kinds of suffering over and over and over and over again. That is hard. Okay. Then what's even worse than that, if we don't now, using this opportunity that we have with the precious human rebirth, and we don't use it in a proper way to abandon the afflictions, to abandon self-cherishing and so forth, then the number of rebirths we'll take in the future in samsara is even more than that.
So hard. So
Well, so what I'm saying is, it's a different kind of difficulty, right? We have to change our mindset a little bit. I just had a question here. If it is so hard, why do we keep doing it? We keep doing it because we haven't cultivated the wisdom. We've been living the same way under the influence of the afflictions, cherishing the self, all these things. We have been just following the same kind of playbook that we always have.
instead of like now so good, so many hardships, we let us start.
Well, one, so this is kind of like the question is, so why don't we live in a better direction? One is just from the power of habituation, right? Again, Shantideva said, just like a flash of lightning on a dark and stormy night briefly illuminates the sky, so too, through the power of the Buddha, does a wholesome thought rarely appear. So, because we're so habituated with non-virtue and selfishness and all this, it's truth. The more we do something, we build a habit. And the more habituated we are, that habit becomes more and more self-reinforcing. So from beginningless time, we have these really bad habits of all the afflictions. So now, through the power of the Buddha, really, through some amazing karma that we all have. And this is what I also like to say, by the way. How many people? We have what? About 20 people here in the center. We have another 15 online. Okay. So 35 people listening to this teaching. Okay. How many thousands of rupees did you have to pay? Nothing, right? Nothing. They didn't ask 1 rupee from you. You understand? Okay. So in the city of Bangalore, there's what? 10 million people? 20 million people? 10 million people? A lot of people. 20 out of 10 million. Do the math for me. It's like a rounding error. And then online, we made this Zoom available also. 15 people. Right? We go to some, it's Saturday night. We go out to some place, 12th Main. Yeah. How many hundreds of people? Right? Hundreds of people. Drinking, partying, dancing, smoking, whatever. Do you understand? Then you really get compassion. This is what samsara is, right? That so many analogies of this, right? Like the moth being attracted to the flame, right? Flame looks so good to the moth, then goes there, gets burned, or goes in the wax or something, right? So samsaric pleasures is like this. It's so enticing, right? Seems so good. Seems like, oh, just one more. And then I'll be good, right? But how many times? What's that? Salt water, yeah. Salt water. The more we drink, only craving increases. The more thirsty we become. So you should all consider yourself so fortunate. So fortunate. Another quotation from Ayurveda, and then we'll go to 12th Main. Sorry, my friends on my 12th Main is this it's a street kind of close by all the nice restaurants and a couple clubs and all that. Joe, what was I saying? Oh, yes, I do. Ayurveda said, those of little merits do not even doubt this doctrine, but merely entertaining a doubt about the nature of existence will tear the foundations of samsara to shreds. Understand? So this is a little bit preview for tomorrow when we're going to get into the actual sutra. But you know, if some of you have read the sutra before, right? They're confusing, right? On Sagadawa, oh wow, I rejoice, right? So you'll see these statements. Um, the Bodhisattva should think, I will lead all beings to liberation beyond remainder. But even though I will have liberated all beings to nirvana without remainder, no being will be liberated to nirvana without remainder, right? You see a lot of these, right? This is called a big body, but it is not a body. Therefore, it's called a big body. A lot of confusing things like this, right? Okay. Point is, most people, right, do not even entertain a doubt that what appears is different from the reality, right? Most people, they're in their bubbles, okay? And they think, yes, I want happiness. They're just like us. I want happiness. But then their strategy, I'm going to go on the weekends, get drunk. Right? So those of little merit do not even entertain a doubt about this doctrine. So most people are in this kind of like ignorance is bliss, this veil, right? But even entertaining a doubt means even we start to question, hey, does the appearance accord with reality? Is there beauty inherently established in the object? Do I exist in the way I think I exist? If we're wise and we do like the Buddha is asking us to do it and try to cut, rub, and scorch, we use analysis, then the thing is, the more we analyze, the more what we think we knew starts to get more fuzzy. And then the things that are described in the text become more clear. And that's how then it tears the foundation of samsara. But those without merit, they're out. No, seriously. It's really incredible. You know, when these Prajnaparamita teachings were given by Buddha in present day Bihar, Vulture's Peak, so forth, there'd be thousands to come to the teaching, you know, thousands. So the best of the students, the very best, you know, even they hear one stanza from the Buddha, many of them they attain nirvana in that first sentence from Buddha. Then others maybe take them a few years, right? But in the Buddha's direct disciples, so many attained nirvana, so many became enlightened. So either we weren't there, right? Or can you imagine? Let's say we were born in Rajguru, right, where the Heart Sutra was given, but we hear the Buddha's giving a teaching, and we say, "Oh, you know what? There's a big party, 12th named Rajgriya. You know, I'm gonna go out and party instead of seeing the Buddha teach." Could have been that, right? So we either weren't there, maybe because we were born in Northern, or we were there, but we didn't take advantage. Or let's say we even were there. We went to the teaching, but then we didn't practice diligently afterwards. We're like, okay, yeah, Buddha, yes, that's really interesting. Yeah, cool. But we leave it as some kind of like attending some history lecture or listening to a podcast or something, where it's just like this. So anyway, it's time to go. But point is, you're all very fortunate to have this opportunity. And so we're not going to just treat this as a kind of um, academic subject, but even this first one, I mean, just a preview tomorrow. You know, I said how all the questions, sorry, all the sutras begin with a question. This question, uh, uh, if you look page 6, top of page 6, at just the last sentence, right? Bhagavan, how should one who has correctly entered the Bodhisattva's vehicle abide? How practice? How control the mind? Okay. This is very interesting. We're going to talk about this more tomorrow. But see, although this is about Prajnaparamita, which is about Shunyata, ultimate reality, Subhuti is not just asking, oh, hey, what's the ultimate nature of reality? Right? Not looking for the answer. But how should one who's correctly entered the Bodhisattva vehicle abide? How to practice, how to control the mind. So even this rich philosophy isn't just to get the answer, but it always has as its goal, how do we use this to control the mind, to subdue the mind? How do we practice it? Right? So for the next remaining 3 sessions, we are going to delve into the words, but having that practice element, how we use these teachings to help control our minds. We're going to have that foremost, not just how do I interpret this verse. Okay? So thank you very much. Let's dedicate quickly that due to this merit, may all beings, vast in space, clearly be freed from all their suffering and attain enlightenment as quickly as possible. We also dedicate for long lives and spiritual friends, including the Song of Dalai Lama. Then also for Alonzo Rinpoche to swiftly return. Okay, we'll leave it at that. Thank you for your patience. We started a few minutes late, so I ended up a few minutes late. See you tomorrow. Good night.
Thank you all so much for joining today. We are going to be posting, there's been some issue with the link. We're going to figure it out today and we're going to post a fresh link for all of you to use. Please follow that and wait for that announcement. Please join us here again tomorrow at 10 a.m. and we'll continue till 12:30. And see you all. Bye.
Okay. Bye.
Please end the prostration circle. Okay. Thank you so much.
So to entice people to come back tomorrow, I brought some shortbread cookies from Hawaii for them as snacks. Sadhana already left. And this, by the way, all you on Zoom listening,
Reason why you need
they
to come.
left.
Well, the people already.
This is why you have to come in person, because we have snacks. We already had samosas.
There's some more please.
Some Hawaiian shortbread cookies.